Hello, my name is Yuri Denshik, and my presentation is about how to use web components in PowerBuilder applications. I will share the challenges we had to go through to compile our PowerBuilder applications in 64-bit. We'll focus more on visual components, and I will demo web components that replaced original 32-bit ActiveXs using Microsoft web browser ActiveX. And I will explain how to do it. Again, my name is Yuri Denshik. In the company I'm working right now, I use PowerBuilder as a Windows development, and Java for the backend, and JavaScript for the web development. I work for Quest Software, a company headquartered in Aliso Viejo, California. The company has many software products. One of the products called Stat is partially written on PowerBuilder. Stat is the change management tool for PeopleSoft and Oracle eBusiness. In few words, Stat allows to archive and migrate PeopleSoft and Oracle eBusiness objects and apply workflow, business rules, approvals, and other security. Stat is the client-server application. Web client is written on PowerBuilder. Some time ago, our customers started asking for a 64-bit Windows client. Slowly, requests changed to demands. We decided to convert our PowerBuilder application to web. The problem was that our PB app is huge. It took us a year just to do UI web design of major areas. Back at that time, Appeon acquired PowerBuilder. First thing they offered was 64-bit compile. We've decided to try, and after going through challenges, we were able to solve all the issues. First, we had to upgrade database drivers. That was the easiest part. We also had to convert our local DLLs and get a 64-bit of it. External Microsoft DLLs offer both 64 and 32-bit. That wasn't a problem. We had few challenges in compiling. Thanks to Appeon, they helped us to resolve them. We had to replace 32-bit non-visual ActiveX components such as FTP, SSH, and zip component. Some of them we delegated to our central agent. So now from PowerBuilder we do REST requests in order to access them. For the zip component, we had to work with archives such as extract from archives, create archives, get a list of it. We started using Java, and we created Java proxy, PowerBuilder Java proxy, to communicate with Java. The biggest challenges was to replace visual 32-bit ActiveX components. We had RichTextEditor, we used TXText, and we used the spell checker. We also had a file compare tool. I tried to find 64-bit RichTextEditor called TXText company, but they said that we don't have it. The Appeon provides 64-bit RichTextEditor, but unfortunately it doesn't work with HTML content. Our requirement was to use HTML content. After some research, we found that we could use a Microsoft web browser ActiveX and build HTML and use the web components. This is the screenshot with original window that has text control. We did a redesign, and now how the same window looks like. On the bottom of the screen, what you can see is the CKEditor, the web component that sits on this screen, that is added using web browser ActiveX. This is original compare tool. It also replaces the same way. Now this is the web component. We decided to go further and upgrade the workflow. Our original workflow is built using data windows. User can perform click and drag and drop, click on the status and transfer. So we wrote JavaScript, which is SVG, using D3 library, and redesigned the workflow. Now it looks like this. So it's also interactive, so user can perform status transfer right from there. Let's now talk how we would add RichTextEditor to PowerBuilder. If you would navigate to the Appeon community site, at least back a few months in the past, you would see this. You could see this this interface, this RichTextEditor. This is exactly what we needed. This is CKEditor. So it's the tool is available on open source and commercial licenses, and it's compatible with major browsers, including the Internet Explorer 11. Why it is important? Because web browser ActiveX is actually the web browser component. If you would navigate to CKEditorcom, you could configure the toolbar, how you want to look, the RichTextEditor to look like, the style. Then you click on download and you get the bundle that includes the JavaScript, HTML, CSS, everything what you need. Once that's ready, you would need to write the HTML page, very simple one, where you include just one single component, RichTextEditor, and also include the JavaScript API. Using that API, you would be able to control that component. The API should, if it's a RichTextEditor, so it's probably the get data, set data, set it to read only, check whether it's modified or not, reset modified flag, and also capture keystrokes. For example, Control S. If user wants to click on Control S, being in that control, you want to pass that information to a main PowerBuilder logic to process the save event. Okay, once it's done, you go back to PowerBuilder and insert into the window web browser ActiveX control. Keep in mind though that adding that control, you add the dependency on IE settings. Luckily, all the issues can be resolved. The first one is the compatibility mode. When you insert the control, it adds it in default compatibility mode 7 of IE7. This is not gonna work with modern JavaScript. You have to set it to compatibility to IE11. That can be done through registry. So you put the application name and the value into the registry, and that can be done on application runtime. Once it's done, you would navigate to the static HTML that we just wrote And voila, here is the PowerBuilder application that has the web component. Now let's talk about how we communicate between JavaScript and PowerBuilder application. The top portion of this presentation is the JavaScript, and the lower one is the PowerBuilder. In the JavaScript, you set, as I said, we define the interface, plus we set temporary variable. This is needed in order to pass complex parameters. For example, when you want to pass HTML content, you can't just simply put it as an argument. It has lots of escape characters. The easiest way to do to pass that is to set that content to JavaScript variable first, and then use parent window.eval method, and where you specify the JavaScript method that you want to call with that temporary variable. The same way, if you want to get data from the web component, first you call the method, and you associate the result to the temporary variable. Once it's done, you can assign the PowerBuilder string to that variable name. Now you would need to capture the events. For example, when user click on the button, you want to tell PowerBuilder that the content is modified. So for that purpose, I use the Windows.status property. Windows.status is no longer used in browsers. Back at the years ago, all browsers had a status bar on the bottom of the screen, and Windows.status could update the text. Now there's no browsers are using that status, but the property is still there. What's most important is that setting that property triggers web browser ActiveX event called status exchange. So you see that I set Windows status twice, once with value, a second time without the value. This is done by purpose, because for some reason, if it's not reset, it may call multiple times. And now it's time for demo. Here's 3 targets, one for each demo. RichTextEditor. Let's run it. So what you see here is TXText, RichTextEditor, and I have some informational controls on the bottom of the screen. So we can start typing and modifying it, applying font size. So we can now get data, get HTML. We can also set HTML. We also can get text, put it to read only, check whether it's modified. It's true. We can also reset whether it's modified. Now when we're ready to save, I click Ctrl S, and you see that the save event triggered. So now I can initiate the save process. Let's do something more fun. How about copying some content from Appeon website right to this page. As you see, it pastes ideally. Now I can modify the content. Notice that if the word is misspelled, it highlights. So this is the native spell checker that you automatically get. So you can start modifying. I don't think I can make this page better than it is, but that's not the point. The point is that I can get HTML, I can get text, I can work on it, and I can save it, extract it, and put it back. So let's look at the content. Oh, before we going that, let me show you something else. So why don't we build first 32-bit? Check the application. Sure. And 64-bit. Now we have it. Let's both run 32-bit and 64-bit. As you see, the output is identical. So this is excellent, because now we can work in PowerBuilder IDE without thinking that we're going to compile it and see something different. 64-bit is exactly the same as 32-bit. Now let's look at the source. So here's the PowerBuilder files. I also have JS folder where I put JavaScript and HTML. In this case, CKEditor is that what's downloaded from the CKEditor website. I wrote CKEditor.html. If you look at the content, there is a little bit of HTML, which is that's it. So this gives that to the screen, and the rest of them is the API. That's all. If we go to the we can actually open that right from the browser, and I can start typing it here, and I can also debug it here using the API that we wrote. For example, get data HTML gives us the value. Get text, give us text presentation of it. So first I have to make sure that it's working using the browser. Once it's done, we can now go to the PowerBuilder. So I have a single window, and window has the web browser ActiveX. This is added from here. So if I go to the OLE control, insert control, we find Microsoft web browser somewhere. There we go, Microsoft web browser. So that's what I inserted here. Now let's look at the open event. I include the controls. Then I check the registry to make sure that it's running in IE11 mode. Once it's done, I just call navigate method that navigates to the static HTML page. Let's look at the controls. For example, get data. So this is what I was talking in the past. That's first we get we set the content to JavaScript temporary variable, and then we call parent window eval, where we pass the whole method name with argument. Let me back to the window and show you the events. It has single events, status exchange event. and I just check if it's a custom. If the message comes with start with custom event, then I just log it. Otherwise, I ignore. Let's run file compare to. There it is. There are two slightly different files, and this gives us the result, what's different. It can also do inline and side by side. The idea is exactly the same. Let's look at the workflow. If I click draw, here's the workflow. As you see, I can drag and drop. I can drag and drop here. I can double click, and I can double click on status and also transfer. So all the events are captured. So what's here? What I'm doing here when I click draw? I'm passing JSON file directly to JavaScript. Let's look at it. It's pretty simple. So I have one method, draw workflow, and this is the JSON string. So the JavaScript takes JSON as a string and parse it, and then it draws the workflow. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Thank you very much for watching it.